Hi again then guys, and so first things first, before we get into the meat of this video, if you are a lower level driver in the game, if you are newer to the game, then I would not recommend checking out this video first. If you are newer to Horizon 4 and you want to earn cash, then click on the first link in the description below, which takes you to my previous video where you can earn a similar amount of cash per minute, English, try it, or if you're a higher level, then you can use this, because in order to unlock this event, which of course is called the Goliath, which many of you are familiar with, but some who aren't at this level are not familiar with it because it doesn't appear until then, this is, I would say, currently the best way of making cash at a pro level without the use of any kind of mod, hack, cheat, none of that kind of stuff. Completely above board, fantastic for rewards. As you saw from the thumbnail, the teaser, you can get massive rewards for this race, in particular when it comes to leveling up. Now, there are a couple of things that I wanted to point out about this event, because the race itself is simple. I could just say, get to level 20, race on Goliath, job done. But what I want to do in this video is give you a couple of extra tips which could really help you, and some things that you need to be wary of when it comes to this race. Now, if you haven't unlocked it, and chances are you probably haven't if you are newer to the game or slightly lower level, you've done the Colossus. If you've checked out my other video, it's a great way of earning cash, like 50 grand a time, takes less than 5 minutes. But the problem with the Colossus is that although you can get it just by doing all of the road races and get to level 10 and they give you that race, it's all well and good, you have to drive all the way back down again every time, or fast travel to the festival site for free from the menu. That's cool enough, but it means you've got to keep on going across the map every time to get back to the race. That's the first advantage of Goliath, because if you do the Colossus over and over again, you'll eventually get to level 20 in the road racing scene, and that is when the Goliath becomes available. Now, the biggest advantage of the Goliath is actually not the money. That's the funny thing. You actually don't earn any more money per minute from the Goliath than you do from Colossus. Colossus is about 50 grand for 5 minutes. Goliath is about 100 grand for about 10 minutes. So it's about the same per minute. However, the advantage is it's a circuit race. So instead of going from point to point, you can set as many laps as you want, or as few laps as you want, depending on the time, depending on how bothered you can be. But the warnings, basically, that I wanted to give you were, I have proven in the past of the Horizon franchise that the game's skill level, when it comes to the drivatars, the AI, if you will, is completely arbitrary. It cheats, in effect. And I've proven this very quickly as a side note to highlight this. In Horizon 3, there's a race also called Goliath. In that event, I used a Hummer to compete. I did one race and then another back-to-back under exactly the same conditions, but the first time I drove as quickly as possible and I finished about 15 seconds ahead. Then the second time, I drifted around every single corner, making my race slower overall. I still finished 15 seconds ahead. That is completely ridiculous. If I'm driving slower and their skill level is the same, they should have beaten me easily, and yet they stayed that far behind. And doubtless you guys have noticed there's always that one or two cars, or always those one or two cars ahead of you in every race that always seem really difficult to catch, and then once you've passed them, suddenly their skill level magically drops, and then they struggle to pass you again. Funny that, it's because the game is arbitrary. I have a strong disdain for the AI in the Horizon games. It's one of the only things that I actually don't like about the game, because it's so ridiculously unrealistic. They just make cars better mid-race to catch up with you, and you'll notice if you look behind you on certain corners every lap, they'll catch up with you for no apparent reason. But with that to one side, that was actually an important thing that I wanted to mention, because as far as choosing the car that you want to use in the event, you could go straight in with the vehicle that you're using, or you could come over here, click change car, and then this is where your power of choice comes in, because depending on what you use, it will change the time that the race takes, but it will also change how easy your victory is. Now, for me personally, I love to use a vintage Grand Prix car. And of course, they are expensive, but you can sometimes win one from a wheel spin or get it from a good price on the auction house. I use this one, the Maserati 8CTF. It doesn't have to be that. It could be any old school car. Could be whatever you want. And of course, certain people will want to use a hypercar or a supercar or a Horizon Edition supercar like an Aventador, because yes, it's a great car in a vacuum, but the problem is what I just said. It doesn't matter how good your car is, the game on unbeatable difficulty, and sometimes even lower, will just make the other cars faster to keep up with you. So it doesn't really matter how good your car is. So what I've found to be a better idea is pick something that isn't a good car. Pick something challenging, but tune yours so that yours is easy to drive. And then, if you do the race in winter, for instance, the computer doesn't have a clue how to make their cars corner as quickly as you in winter, because they're these 1930s Grand Prix machines. So if you do that, you'll have a much easier victory. And in fact, you'll see some footage of that in this video of me in action with the Maserati. So that proves my point. They'll still catch up to you for no apparent reason on certain corners, but it'll be much easier to win than if you use, say, the Maserati MC12 as an example, which I would rather use, but there's always this one Nissan R390 that's just ridiculously quick for no apparent reason. And once he overtakes you, you'll have a hard time catching him again. So pick your car carefully. Once you've picked your car, though, you can then go to Create Blueprint. Now if you go straight into the race, it will be just standard, one lap, whatever time of year the game is already in. But if you go to create your blueprint, you can actually create your own. And as you can see here, I've got one with 2 laps, one with 3 laps. You can even change the season, so you could be in winter but you could race in summer. And it doesn't change the game, it just changes it for that one race. And that's not a hack or a cheat, that's part of it. If you click on Create the Event, you can select the category of vehicle, and then go to Event Settings. And as you can see here, you've got the laps, the season, time of day, time progression, all of that stuff. You can create your own event. Now, what I'd recommend doing, for me personally at least, I do it 2 or 3 laps at a time. And even in a vintage car, that's only like 20 to 30 minutes. So for doing that, you're looking at least 100 grand a lap, and about, I think it's 27 or 28,000 fans per lap. So in other words, if you put the difficulty relatively high, but maybe you still have normal steering, not simulation, damage turned off, rewind turned on, ABS turned on, that's what I have. So it's relatively easy as far as the car, but just with unbeatable AI, for instance, then you're looking at easily 600 grand for a 6 lap, in other words 1 hour race, 600 grand for the race itself, about whatever it is, 160,000 fans, which is insane, and that is better than the Colossus. But also, Goliath is such a good race because you will level up literally every lap. But it's not just once. You will level up every lap as a driver, and you'll level up as a road racer. And once you get to level 20, you still continue going around and round through level 20. It never goes any higher than that, but you level up level 20 over and over again, and you'll get wheel spins, you'll get bonuses of all kinds. So essentially, if you set it on like a 1 hour version, as I said, that's like 6 laps, you're looking at like 14 level ups in one race. And of course, 600 grand for an hour doesn't sound that amazing, but the reality is you get way more than that, because you can get 100, 150, 200 grand from a wheel spin. You could win hypercars, classics. Of course, you'll get the trashy stuff like beanies and hoodies and stupid stuff like that, but chances are when you've got 14 wheel spins, some of which will be super wheel spins depending on your level, you are going to get a lot of cool stuff. So overall, it's a great race. It's definitely my go-to, and I like it because you can tailor how difficult you want the event to be, and that's something which makes for a nice change, because usually you don't have that kind of option. So overall, if you do decide to do this, be cautious of the AI, choose your car carefully. Of course, you can tailor the length of the race as much as you want, and that's it overall. So of course, if you are a newer player, then thanks for watching the video, but you might want to check out the Colossus video in the description below first. But if you are a pro, chances are you already know about this, and then hopefully there might be 1 or 2 little hints or tips that I've given which could help you to hone your experience even more and make the event even more lucrative for you. But that's it overall for this money earning method. It's a very reliable one, and of course stick around on the channel for more tips, tricks like this, and also plenty of tunes for the cars themselves, many of which you can use in this event and others like it. But for now, as always, thanks for watching.